पूरी फैमिली साथ में
मैं दिशा तो अलग होता है वो जिन्हें लोगों से फ्रेंड बनती है वो अपनी मम्मा को सिखा चुकी है ना तो सुना देती है वो तीनों की मम्मा सब कुछ शॉपिंग के लिए
कोई तो लाया है
सारी सब हम बोलो स्कूल फ्रेंड मेरी मम्मा मेरे को जानती भी नहीं
मेरी चाइल्डहुड बेस्ट फ्रेंड की माँ और मेरी माँ इतना नहीं करती
तेरी मम्मी मेरी मम्मी कभी नहीं करे क्या बोल रही तू
मेरी आधी जिंदगी तो तुम्हारी बेटी थी
मेरे को पहले नहीं पसंद थी
अब मुझे वाला हंसता है कि तुम इस तरह चाइल्डहुड फ्रेंड पता मेरा भी तो हुआ है
शिवा का नहीं लड़की अच्छी तरह वो
क्यों पता होता है
अरे वीडियो में तो है ना वीडियो हमारे क्लास में डालते साल से अब पीछे की बात
ये नहीं तू मेरे को वीडियो तो वो एक बी में था मुझे बहुत डिस्ट्रिक्ट लगता है
क्या बोल रही है तू
जब तो एक क्लास में आया तो एक
में था यार कितने टाइम से था हमारे साथ 5th बी में था क्या
दो साल पहले की बात है ये कब लिया है
अरे बात करना है बीच में टिफिन लेके आता था
अच्छा हाँ बस में इन्होंने बोला था जिसको तुझसे खाना नियम को दे दो
मैंने नियम को ही दिया था
हाँ पूरे बस में
वही तो
को बर्गर और चिप्स नहीं चाहिए था भी हमको दे दो
बर्गर तो किसको बर्गर कैसे नहीं चाहिए अभी जो मेरे क्लास में आ गई है दीक्षा उसको चीज नहीं पसंद उसको चॉकलेट नहीं पसंद उसको पिज्जा नहीं पसंद
मुझे नहीं पसंद
क्या मेरे से साउथ इंडियन पसंद है इडली
इडली पसंद
चीज नहीं पसंद चॉकलेट नहीं पसंद पिज्जा बर्गर
अरे वो दीजिए का डायलॉग पढ़ सकता हूँ
अरे बात क्या
आई यूज्ड टू वेक अप एट 4 क्या क्या मुझे अरे वो लड़की उसका एक मार्क्स छुट्टी मेरा वो पेट्रोल कोई हैवी कर देता है कोई नहीं अरे बहुत बुरा लगता है जब तुम्हें लगता है ना कि पूरा पेपर सही गया एंड देन यू रियलाइज कि एक मार्क्स छूट गया
कभी कभी करती हो ना ये सारे एग्जाम की बात होती है नहीं सारा पता है सारा अपनी क्लास से स्टार्ट करके जल्दी आती है जस्ट सीधी का रोना अरे हमारी क्लास में एग्जाम बहुत होती है एग्जाम के समय डिजिटल होती है तो बहुत स्टार्ट होता है और एग्जाम के बाद होती है मेरे को बिहार में बोला जाता है वो बस है ना एग्जाम में नहीं बनती है मेरे क्लास में ना अच्छा बेटा गूगल से देख लेना बात करते हैं उसने क्या इसको बोला हैरी पॉटर को गूगल पर मेरा वीडियो और उसकी लड़का क्या क्या
देखने वाला
कौन पास करना बोलना अरे पहली बार बंदर लास्ट बार मेरा टाइम है
प्रायोरिटी है प्रायोरिटी होनी चाहिए
ये क्या है ये चॉकलेट इसमें
अरे नदिया तू चूतिया है क्या बोला था तू पागल है क्या क्यों मार डालता हूँ
अरे रुक जाओ ना चिच्चू तो उसकी मैं
कितना कंप्लीट only for you वो चम्मच में हटाएगा मैं तेरी मां को पूरा पैसा बैठ जा ये लौड़े तो चुप बैठना अब क्या बोलता रहता है अरे गुस्सा हो गया बोल के बोल रहा है तो तेरे साथ गाड़ी तो सुना बोलने वाला था बोलने वाला नहीं जब पारी है एक करके तू मारा तू एक ये बनता अगर टीके आती है मां तो बैठती है ना मेरी बात आप नहीं देखो मेरे मामा का गाड़ी से आएगा नहीं ना
गाली दिया बोल क्या बस बोल मैंने तो
अरे आज साफ नहीं हुआ है
ये
हो गया मैं
हो गया
आ गया
हो गया
क्या गाली दिया
पंजीकरण नहीं किया
लाइट से देख
अरे मेरे को कुछ भी चिढ़ा रहा है तब से इधर क्या अभी तो बोला
क्या बोल के
चिढ़ाया भाई गाली दिया
क्या बोल के चिढ़ाया बोल
रिकॉर्डिंग
आज क्या बोल के
दिया
चिढ़ाया
बोल
तो लगेगा
डन क्लीन किया
तेरे साफ नहीं किया मैम है अभी
ए क्या था
क्या ये
थोड़ा सा आएगा
लंच चल रहा है तुम्हारा अभी तो खाओ ना जल्दी फटाफट आओ तो इधर नहीं बैठ रहे हो तुम इधर बैठो क्या प्रॉब्लम होता है और वहां पे नहीं होता
डिस्टेंस ज्यादा है
हाँ तुम इधर आओ in a minute Now, next is we are going to study the structure of the human heart. Settle down. All okay that side? All okay? Okay, खाना? हाँ तो इधर आओ. Take out your books.
मैम वो कब से है? हो गया.
जैसे ब्रेक दिया जाता है that time only you should open up your boxes and start eating.
तो अभी खा रहा था.
तब से खा रहे हो अभी भी?
हाँ. बहुत है.
मम्मा ने बहुत कुछ दिया है क्या? Now we talk about the structure of human heart. Now, first of all, we are going to come across what are the different parts, what are the different structures, chambers, major features of the human heart. Now, human heart, majorly when we talk about human heart, we understand mammalian heart. Mammalian heart. Why do we say mammalian heart? Mammalian heart, we human, we are mammals. There are many special features to talk about when we are talking about mammals. Now, the most important here to understand is, with reference to the heart, we would say we mammals have four chambered hearts. We have got four chambered hearts. Now, with reference to the four chambered hearts, what are some of the main features of the heart that we have to come across? The first thing is we have to understand that the heart is four chambered. Talk about the structure of the human heart. The heart is four chambered. See here, if you look into this particular diagram, the heart is four chambered. Which are the chambers? Two upper chambers and two lower chambers. These are the main chambers of the heart that we understand. The chambers, the upper chambers and the lower chambers. So first of all, the mammalian heart is four chambered. What are the features? Try remembering. The mammalian heart, four chambers. Which are the chambers now we are talking about? The upper chamber. Which are the upper chambers known as? The upper chambers are known as the auricle or atrium. Atrium or auricles. So how many atria we come across? Two upper chambers, or atrium singular, and what is the plural word? Atria. Auricle, that also commonly known as auricle. So here we are talking about the right auricle, the left auricle. Similarly, we talk about the ventricles. Which are the lower chambers then? The lower chambers are ventricles. The lower chambers are known as ventricles. And between the auricles and ventricles, if you see, between the auricles and ventricles, there are some muscular wall in between. There's a muscular wall. And what is this muscular wall known as between the auricle and ventricle? The muscular wall is known as septum. So the first feature to remember, we are talking about the mammalian heart. The mammalian heart has four chambers. Upper chambers are called the auricle or the atria. Lower chambers known as the ventricles. And between each of these chambers, here also between the ventricle, the septum is there. Between the auricle also a similar type of muscular wall runs in between. Between the auricle and the ventricle also there are certain type of septum. But then the question here is that what is the significance of the septum? What is the need of the septum? The need of the septum is to not allow the mixing of the blood never happen in the heart. And why the mixing should not happen? Because if I talk about the human heart, the right side is consisting of impure blood, deoxygenated blood. The left side always has oxygenated blood, pure blood. And the deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood never mix. Then how are we benefited because of this process? A large amount of oxygen supply to the tissues. Large amount of oxygen supply also means what? A large supply of, more the supply of oxygen. What are we getting in return? More the supply of oxygen to the tissue cells. What are we getting in return? So you have just recently studied respiration. If there is more supply of oxygen to the tissue cells, what are we going to get in return?
Energy.
More amount of energy. Did not you study that oxygen, more the oxygen supply, oxygen always helps in the breakdown of the glucose and release energy. So now, how are we benefited? The first feature always to remember, mammalian heart is 4-chambered. And between the chambers, there are muscular wall. What is this muscular wall? Known as the septa. What is the significance? They do not allow the mixing of the blood ever happen. Then what is the significance again? What is the importance in our body in that case? The mixing of the blood does not happen. So the body cells get enough amount of oxygenated blood by the way of the arteries. We are going to talk about that from the left side of the heart. A big artery starts rising, which is known as the aorta. And this aorta divides into a large number of arteries. And arteries are always supposed to give oxygenated blood to the tissues, and hence the supply of oxygen to the tissues that I'm talking about. More the oxygen supply, more the energy release. So we mammals, we human, we have a great energy requirement. The demand of oxygen is so much for our body cells because the energy requirement is so much for our body cells, for our body movements, for our body processes. So is the first concept clear? When I talk about the 4-chambered heart, what is the significance of the 4-chambered heart in human? What are the features of the 4-chambered heart? The 4-chambered heart has the upper chambers auricles, the lower chamber and ventricles, and they are all separated. These chambers do not have any internal contact, no mixing of the blood ever possible. And how are we benefited? Maximum supply of oxygen to the body cells. More the amount of oxygen supply, again and again I'm repeating, more the amount of oxygen supply, more will be the energy release. What was that process known as happening in the cells? Cellular respiration. Remember, in this chapter, nutrition is related to respiration, respiration is related to circulation, everything related one after the other. So this is the first concept that we understand, the chambers of the heart separated by septa. Now next is what? Again we come across that in these chambers of the heart, try understanding that the right side, again, now say suppose I talk about the structure of the heart and you are asked to label the parts of the heart. Now how do we define, show me the diagram of the heart here. Now this is the structure of the heart. Say suppose now, this is the structure of the heart and you are asked to label the right atrium, the left ventricle. So which one are you labeling? The right atrium? Are you labeling this as the right atrium? No. And the left ventricle? No. Always remember, place it on your body and your right side and your left side now to understand. Not to take the right side and the left side this way on the diagram. Always to take the right side and the left side according to your body. Okay? So otherwise you'll make a big mistake. When we are talking about the right side of this diagram, which is the right side of this diagram? The right side is this side. Your left hand side becomes your right side of the diagram. And this is the right side, your right hand side, but this is the left side. Check the diagram, all of you that you have in your volume also, and be confirmed about what I'm saying. Whenever you are asked to label the diagram, right auricle, left ventricle, etc., you are supposed to take it this way. So it is just the opposite. Remember, your right hand side is the left side of the heart and your left hand side is the right side of the heart. Yes. Don't go by the right hand and the left hand side. Don't go by the right hand and the left hand side. Check this diagram, all of you, and see what I'm saying. Is it understood or not? When you are labeling, which page is it? 147. Check the diagram, all of you. Did you notice what I'm saying? When you are labeling the parts of the heart, the right atrium, the left atrium, the right auricle, the left auricle, you are not to mark it according to your right hand and left hand. It is actually just the opposite. It is just the opposite to understand. So your right hand side is the left side. Your left hand side is the right side of the heart. It is something like when you place it on your body. When you place it on your body, that way you have to check. So that is the first thing always to remember. Now, when we are talking about after the chambers, now that we are already sure about the 4 chambers, what are these chambers doing and what are their job? How does the blood flow? That is the next thing that we have to understand. But before that, we also have to talk about the different vessels which are associated with the heart. The different vessels which are associated with the heart. First of all, we have learned about the chambers. Now we talk about the vessels. Now, which are the different type of vessels, first of all, present in our body as a part of the circulatory system, if you understand. Before we talk about the vessels here. What are the different types of vessels that we have in our body? The types of vessels that we have in our body are this. One set of tubes, the arteries. The other set of tubes, the veins. These are the major 2 types of vessels. In between the arteries and the veins, another network of vessels known as the capillaries. So 3 types of vessels I am talking about. One is the arteries, which will always carry blood from the heart to the body parts. Now, so these are the 3 words, try understanding. I am talking about the arteries and the veins. So again, if I talk about the heart and the body, from the heart, the vessels that carry blood towards the body are these red tubes. These red tubes are the arteries. The arteries always carry blood from the heart to the body. These blue tubes are the veins that carry blood from the body to the heart. So I'm talking about 2 types of vessels right now. What are those? Number 1, I'm talking about the arteries. Next, I talk about the veins, the major 2 types of vessels in our body. So now, when we are talking about the vessels in our body, what are some of the features to remember? Arteries, what are they doing? Arteries carry blood from heart to body parts. All of you will write this down as a tabular difference. As I now talk about these differences, all of you will make a table and write down the points as I discussed. Whenever you don't understand, you are going to raise a question. Don't just blankly keep on writing. Now, majorly we are going to learn the types of vessels. What are the 2 main types of vessels? And then, of course, we are going to also learn about the capillaries. So first is, I'm talking about the arteries. What type of vessels are these? They carry blood from the heart to the body parts always. They carry blood from the heart to the body parts always. Just now I showed you. If it is an artery, this is the big artery of the body known as the aorta. We are going to draw the diagram also. Big artery of the body known as the aorta, and this will always carry the blood from the heart to the body parts. What then for the veins should we write? The veins always carry blood, just the reverse. Carry blood from body parts to the heart. Carry blood from body parts to the heart. Understood this? So the direction of the flow of the blood in an artery and the vein, are they the opposite direction the blood is moving? Yes. When I talk about the blood moving in an artery, they are always moving from the heart to the body. Veins always moving from the body to the heart. Clear? We talk about the next feature of the artery and the vein. The next feature is, right from this, always to remember the red and the blue that always you see in the diagrams this way, always talks about what? The pure and the impure blood. The oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood. Now, if it is an artery, they always carry what type of blood? They always carry oxygenated blood. They always carry oxygenated blood. Now, what is the definition of oxygenated blood? Blood which has higher concentration of oxygen than carbon dioxide. What is the definition of oxygenated blood? Blood that has a higher concentration of oxygen. A higher concentration of oxygen as compared to carbon dioxide. As compared to carbon dioxide. Now remember, I am not talking about a comparison something like 98% is to 2%. No, I'm not talking about a comparison this way. The comparison is never this way. The comparison is something like this only. Understood? The comparison, the difference is very little, very, much lesser. It's not a big difference also actually that we talk about. So remember, whenever we are talking about a concept of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, it is not 80-20 ratio also, much lesser than that. The difference will not be more than 10 to 15% at all in our body. So now that I talk about what is the job, what is the function of an artery? Artery always carries oxygenated blood. And what is the definition of oxygenated blood? Blood which has a little bit higher proportion of oxygen as compared to carbon dioxide. Then what should we write the other way? For veins, then what are we supposed to write? Blood that carries, or the vein that will always carry what type of a blood? Deoxygenated blood. Then what should be the definition of deoxygenated blood? A higher concentration of carbon dioxide as compared to oxygen. Little bit, oxygen is lesser. Only that much to understand. So what is the definition? Not necessary. It varies from time to time. Sometimes it will be 45 and 55. Sometimes it may be 60 and 42, 68 and something like this. It is not the same also all over the day. All over the day it's not same also. Carry deoxygenated blood from where to where? From the body parts to the heart always. So what is the second difference we are learning? The second difference that we are talking about is the blood which is carried by the artery always oxygenated, more amount of oxygen, and the blood that we come across carried by the vein always deoxygenated. But there's an exception now. What is that exception always to be mentioned? The exception is what? The exception is the pulmonary artery. Except pulmonary artery. Why like that? Because we are going to come across pulmonary artery is one such vessel which carries deoxygenated blood. Pulmonary artery, remember, with reference to the lungs already we had written pulmonary vein. Yes. So for the arteries, all arteries of the body carry oxygenated blood. It is only the pulmonary artery which is carrying deoxygenated. No, it is carrying from the heart to the lungs only. Direction is the same. Artery carry blood from heart to body parts. Pulmonary artery is carrying blood from heart to lung. So that lung is the body part now. Understood? Now, deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein. Except pulmonary vein. So this point always to remember. This point always to remember. Whenever you are writing down the difference, arteries carry oxygenated blood except for the pulmonary artery, always to write down this way. Veins carry deoxygenated blood except for the pulmonary veins. Next is when we are talking about the section of the arteries and the veins. Just first of all find a difference here. I talk about a section now of the artery and the vein. If it is an artery, can you see that the wall of the artery is quite thick? And the inner space, what is that inner space? For the intestine also we have named it as the inner space, we always name it as the lumen. Is it the same when I talk about the vein? Is it the same?
No, it is not.
In case of the vein, how do we draw the section of the artery and the vein? If it is the vein, we will always draw the wall is something like this, and this is the lumen. The wall is thin. Then how should I draw for the artery here? If I have to draw the artery, I will have to draw the artery something like this, and the wall is comparatively thicker, and the lumen is much narrower. Not because of the high pressure, because the lumen is narrow, that's the reason high pressure. So now that we are talking about another structural difference, now let us talk about the next difference. When we are talking about the differences between the artery and the vein, what is the next difference now we come across? The next difference is, the third point that we talk about is, arteries have thick wall. They have thick wall and narrow lumen. Thick wall and narrow lumen. What is lumen? Lumen is the inner cavity, the inner space. What about the other side? For veins, what should we write?
They have.
This is a washroom card. Go and give. He's holding it with great care. Now, have thick wall and narrow lumen. What do we write here now? We have to write here thin wall and wide lumen. The inner space is wider. Wide lumen. Now, because the inner space is narrow, what would be the difference? Will this cause any difference?
Yes.
Now that the inner space is wide and the inner space is narrow, will this cause any difference?
Yes.
What do you think should be the difference?
Lower pressure.
Pressure of the blood. So since the lumen is narrow, blood flows at a higher pressure. Blood flows at a higher pressure. Blood flows at a higher pressure. What this side? Blood flows at a lower pressure. But now, what would be the problem if the blood is flowing at a lower pressure? And on top of that, we always know that the veins are carrying the blood from the body parts to the heart. Think about the body parts like the legs. The legs. The blood from the legs have to run up till the heart. As it is, the flow of the blood is against the gravity. So there are chances, if I talk about this is the vein of our body, if I understand that this is the vein of our body and the blood is running up, there are chances that the blood will again flow down. Yes or no? Because the blood is running from our toes, from our legs, and it has to go up to the heart. Veins have wide lumen, the pressure is less. The blood is running up, again going down. The blood is running up, again going down. But does that actually happen? No. Why it does not happen? Because on the inner wall of the vein, there are muscular flaps. And what are these muscular flaps? Known as valves. Now that these valves are there, the moment the blood rushes in and fills these pockets, what will happen? These pockets will close immediately, and whatever amount of blood has come here that cannot go down or drip down, they now have to move up. So these valves actually allow the unidirectional movement of the blood. Even though the veins have got a wider lumen, the chances of backflow does not happen. Why the backflow does not happen? Because constantly on the inner wall, at regular intervals in the inner wall of the veins, there are valves. The moment a small amount of blood has come in, the valves are locked. So whatever blood has come in, that cannot drop down. And again, have to keep moving up, moving up, moving up. But then, when I talk about the arteries then, why the arteries? How can the arteries manage without valves then? Because the pressure of the blood is as it is so high, and most of the arteries of our body are running downwards. Yes or no? The flow of the blood is downwards. So the gravity is also acting there. The process of the gravitational force is also another point, another factor which is allowing the blood flow at a higher force. So what is the next point of difference that we write? If it is the artery, do they have valves? No, they do not possess valves. They do not possess valves. What is the definition of valves? These are muscular flaps, remember. These are, write down the meaning also. What are these? These are muscular flaps. Talk about the fifth point here. They possess valves. Valves are muscular flaps on the inner wall of the veins which allow the process of circulation of the blood in a unidirectional way when we are talking about the valves, when we are talking about the veins. So what are some of the major differences that we are supposed to always remember? What type of blood flow? What is the direction of the blood flow? And how is the process of smooth movement being brought about? The structural and the functional differences, some of these you have to remember. The artery and the vein that we talk about. So if I talk about the arteries and if I talk about the vein, so there are some differences again to come across. So here again we understand the valves. How are these valves beneficial in our body? You get a question there. What is the significance of the valves in the vein? What is the significance? The significance is they bring about unidirectional flow of the blood and prevent the backflow of the blood. What is the significance of the valves? They prevent the backflow of the blood. These are the words that has to be mentioned. Right, one question. How do valves, take this question once you are finished with these differences. How do valves provide unidirectional flow of blood? How do valves provide unidirectional flow of blood? You may straight away get questions. What is the significance of valves? Answer is the same. Write down. Valves are muscular flaps. Valves are muscular flaps present on. Valves are muscular flaps present on the inner wall of veins. Present on the inner wall of veins. Full stop. They provide methods for unidirectional flow of blood and prevent the backflow of blood because of their ability to contract and relax. Because of their ability to contract and relax. Got that? So first of all, we are talking about the differences between the arteries and the veins. Now, where are those capillaries present? What is their job? Now, if I have to talk about the capillaries, where are the capillaries present? See here. Again, I am talking about a difference between the artery and the vein. The artery and the vein. So, what did you already learn here also? That if it is an artery and a vein, the artery is always carrying oxygenated blood towards the tissue. So now just understand, the blood is moving from the artery towards the tissue. What is surrounding these capillaries? A whole lot of the body parts, body tissues. So these capillaries are, I'll give you the flow chart also to remember. If these are the blood capillaries and the lymph vessels are also parallel, surrounding them are also the lymph vessels, which will again go and join the vein. So now when we are talking about this relation, try to remember this relation. It is an artery which is carrying blood towards the tissue. Where are these tissues? I understand that these are some body parts, and on the body part, these capillaries. Maybe the stomach, maybe the intestine. So surrounding these capillaries, you can imagine any organ, any part of the body, any muscle of the body. Capillaries carrying the pure blood, and as they move towards the tissue, see here the blood becomes deoxygenated. Who can tell me why? Because the blood is moving towards the tissue. When it was moving towards the tissue, it was oxygenated. And when it is passing by the tissues, past the tissues. It has moved away from the tissues. Now it is deoxygenated. Why?
Because there is the process of cellular respiration that uses
Has
up the
happened.
oxygen.
So every tissue cell picked up oxygen, gave carbon dioxide. Remember that concept? So if I draw some tissue cells, what has happened here? The tissue cells picked up oxygen and gave carbon dioxide. Hence this blood is deoxygenated, and this deoxygenated blood goes again into the veins.
So capillaries carry both oxygenated and deoxygenated.
Correct. On one side, it's the tissue on either side. So just first of all, understand this. Once you are aware about the concept of arteries and veins, now between the arteries, which are those vessels which are connecting the arteries and veins? The third type of vessels which connect the arteries and veins are the capillaries. Now I talk about the capillaries, the third type of blood vessels. Now that we are talking about the third type of blood vessels, see here the capillaries that we understand. What are some of the special features? Capillaries always lie between arteries and veins. They are always present between the arteries and veins. Now that we are saying that they are present between arteries and veins, where exactly? Near the body tissues. They are always present near the body tissues. What are some special features? They are thin-walled, the same feature like the alveolus, the same feature like the villus, thin-walled. But the second feature is they have pores on their wall. They have pores on their wall. Now for the capillary, these are some features to remember. So here I say that between the artery and the vein, there has to be a network of capillaries connecting the artery and the vein. So in between the artery and the vein, always we have to imagine that there are a whole lot of body tissues, body parts. The artery divides to form capillaries. The capillaries again unite to form veins. Check this diagram. The arteries, are they dividing first of all to form capillaries? Yes. And on the other side, it is the capillaries only which are uniting again back to form the veins. Correct? Is this diagram clear now? So when we are talking about the arteries and the veins and the capillaries, then what about the capillary wall and the thickness, etc.? Do they have valves? No, they don't have valves at all. What about their wall? Their wall is very thin, just one single layer of epithelial cells. And they are much smaller. If I have to compare and draw, I should be drawing that they are actually much smaller. Minute blood vessels they are. The capillaries are the minute blood vessels between the artery and the vein. So this is about the vessels that you learn. What are the major types of vessels? The major types of vessels are, we talk about the arteries, the veins, and between the arteries and the veins are the capillaries. Now that you know about the vessels, now let us again go back to the structure of the heart to understand. The vessels in the heart. Which are the vessels now? Let us try understanding. The vessels in the heart. Remember one by one that I speak. First of all, I would start talking about the deoxygenated blood that is entering into the heart. The deoxygenated blood that is entering into the heart. The deoxygenated blood from the tissues will enter into the heart. So the tissues will give rise to the deoxygenated blood. This deoxygenated blood will be carried by which vessels? Which vessels carry deoxygenated blood away from the veins? Now that we know the veins, there are hundreds and hundreds of veins in our body. There are hundreds of veins in our body. Now that we talk about these veins, we just understand there are hundreds and hundreds of veins in our body, such type of vessels. The veins coming from the stomach, the veins coming from the intestine, the kidneys, etc., etc., all the different parts of the body. These veins will come together and unite to form the major veins of the body. There are some few major veins of the body, broad veins of the body. And what are these broad veins of the body known as? These broad veins of the body are known as vena cava. Veins from the lower body, veins from the upper body. In your diagram, in the book, in your diagram also, it's also there. Remember, now we are talking about two major veins, but do we have only two veins in our body? No, we have hundreds and hundreds of veins in our body. Right from the stomach, there may be another 20-30 veins coming up and uniting. From the kidney, another 20-30 veins coming and uniting. From the intestine, from the muscles, from the feet, from the legs. All these veins from the lower part of the body come and unite to form one big vein, and all the veins from the upper part of the body come and unite, form one big vein known as, in your book it is mentioned as vein from the upper body, vein from the lower body, but there are names to these big veins. Okay? So are you understanding what I'm speaking? I'm saying that these veins will always unite to form bigger veins of the body. And what are these big veins of the body known as? Vena cava. In your book, if you see the NCERT, it's mentioned as veins from upper body. Yes or no? Veins from upper body and veins from lower body. It is mentioned that way in your book. Veins from upper body and veins from lower body. But if I have to write in one word, we generally write vena cava. Clear? Now, these veins from the lower body, meaning it is formed by the fusion of hundreds of veins from different parts of the body. What type of blood do they carry? Deoxygenated. What type of blood do they carry? Deoxygenated. So these blood both carrying deoxygenated blood. Whether I talk about the veins from the upper body, whether I talk about the veins from the lower body, all carrying deoxygenated blood and pouring it into which chamber? The right atria. If you are talking, this is very difficult for you. These things you are learning for the first time, it is very, very difficult for you. You are sitting down and just looking at my face and talking there, everything is going this way. I will finish my song and I will get out of the class. But you will be absolutely blank when you go home. The loss is yours. Understand twice. Why are you here? I should not, you all are already grown-ups. I should not tell you repeatedly why are you sitting here. It's only few handful I get to see every day. You are realizing why are you here. Most of you are not even realizing why did I come here. Only to do pranks? Only to do the mischief? Of course not. Realize मैं यहाँ पे क्यों बैठा हूँ, किस लिए बैठा हूँ. Now, when we are talking about this, what I said, what are these big veins of the body? So the moment I talk about veins, whether you use this word or you can write this also. Keep the diagram in front of you when I talk. We'll draw the diagram later. Let me just explain with all these diagrams. The concept is absolutely clear for you. Look into the diagram that is there in the volume also and in your textbook also. Those of you have your textbook, you can refer to the diagram also. Because these are the doubts that you all will come up later with. Veins from the upper body, veins from the lower body. It is mentioned that way in your book. Otherwise, we generally term them as vena cava. Vena cava from the lower body, vena cava from the upper body. You can remember. What is vena cava? Vena cava is a big broad vein of the body, which opens up into the heart. One vena cava from the lower part, one vena cava from the upper part. But both will open into the right orbit.
It's basically all the veins
coming together, merging together. So this vena cava may contain, or it is a fusion of veins from the stomach and the intestine and the kidney and the legs and etc. Lower parts. This vena cava formed by the union of veins from the hand and the shoulder and the neck and the head and the face. All these veins come together to form the veins from the upper body, fuse together to form a big broad vein. Veins of the lower body fuse together to form a big broad vein. So which veins are we talking about? The vena cava. Better you know this term, so understanding becomes easier. As I mentioned, in your book, they have used these terms.
What would be more accurate to write in it?
I always suggest this. But in some of your schools, the teacher don't accept. So that you'll have to fight with your teacher. Now, when we are talking about this, vena cava. What is vena cava? The broad, big veins. So it's easier for you to remember. When I teach, we always teach this way. This is the inferior vena cava. This is the superior vena cava. So it's very easy for the children to remember. Superior means from the upper part of the body. Inferior means from the lower part of the body. Type of the blood is all the same. See here, blue. Type of the blood is all the same. What is it? Deoxygenated blood, because ultimately it is a vein. Where is this blood going now? Entering where? Into the right auricle. Into the right auricle. So where will the vena cava drop the blood? The vena cava will drop the blood always into the right auricle. So are we not talking about the right side of the heart having deoxygenated blood? Yes. Now that the blood is in the right auricle, where should the blood now next go? The blood has to next go into the right ventricle. Now don't copy this. Understand. After that I will ask you to write. Right auricle, now that the blood is where? Now the blood is into the right auricle. Clear? Now the blood is into the right auricle, the blood has to go down. Now that the blood is in the right auricle, the blood will fill up. As the blood fills in, after some time, this particular chamber, this is made up of muscles. What type of muscles? Heart is made up of what type of muscles?
Cardiac muscle fibers,
Cardiac muscles. What is one special feature of the cardiac muscles? They are involuntary. Matlab?
We have no control over it.
We cannot regulate the contraction, relaxation, involuntary muscles. So this particular chamber, the moment it fills in blood, it will start contracting on its own. And the blood from here goes down to this particular chamber. What is this chamber known as? Right ventricle. But can you see a pair of valves here also?
Yes.
Here also, something like a gate is there. Once this is getting filled in, the gate will open, make a pathway. The moment the blood has run down, pushed down here, the valves close, relax and close. When the blood has to move, contract and open. So now the valves will contract and open and the blood comes down. What is the name of this valve? The name of this valve is tricuspid valve. So what is the name of this valve? Tricuspid valve. What is the name of the valve there? Your legs are becoming too long over. हाँ कुछ तो problem है legs का वहाँ पे ना? Oh, bench small है. उसके लिए तो अपना घर से
पीछे ले रहा है नहीं मैं पीछे ले रहा है मैं आगे ले रहा हूँ तो हिट हो रहा है इसके पैर को पीछे कर रहा है.
So lower standard में etiquette नहीं सीखा कभी कि किसी के पैर में अगर लग रहा है तो I have to adjust my body.
I did but he is pushing back further.
तो या तो पैर घर पे रख के आया करूँ या तो अपना सोफा लेके आया करूँ. दोनों में से एक ऑप्शन तो हो सकता है. We can provide you only this much. You have to adjust without disturbing the class. Now, what is that valve between the right auricle and the right ventricle? Tricuspid. Which valve am I talking about? I am talking about this valve. So, find out the relation one by one that I speak, and after that we will complete the circle. So, what did I say? The veins. Which are these veins? The big broad veins of the body are carrying deoxygenated blood from the body parts, from any type of the body parts. To understand what type of blood? Deoxygenated blood. Now the blood is dropped into the right auricle. The right auricle now, as it starts contracting, a pair of valves open up. Which valve am I talking about? The tricuspid valve between the right auricle and the right ventricle. And this blood now drops down and fills into this chamber. Which chamber it is? The right ventricle. But once the right ventricle is filling blood this way, close again. Why? What is the job of the valve we studied?
So it
Prevents backflow of the blood. This is the answer that you should write. Why does the tricuspid valve close when the ventricle is filling blood? To prevent backflow of the blood. Backflow कभी भी नहीं होता है. The blood is always moving in a unidirectional pathway. So now the blood is filling up here. Which valve is closed? Tricuspid. But now that the blood is filled up here, has to go somewhere. Now after some time, this chamber will start contracting. This chamber starts contracting. The right ventricle starts contracting. Then where does the blood go now? The blood enters into this tube. What is this tube known as? Pulmonary artery. What is this tube? Pulmonary artery. Again, we are talking about an artery which is carrying deoxygenated blood. From where does the pulmonary artery arise? Right ventricle. So from the right side of the heart, from the right ventricle. Now next is what? From the right ventricle, we are going to continue and to write that from the right ventricle, the blood rises up and goes to the pulmonary artery. Then what type of blood is the pulmonary artery carrying? Always deoxygenated blood. Now this part already you had studied. Next, if I have to write, then where does this blood go now? This blood from the pulmonary artery goes to the lungs. What is the structural and functional unit of the lungs known as? Structural and functional unit of the lungs. What are they known as? Structural and functional unit of the lungs. What are they known as? Alveolus. You should have been able to say on your own. So now that we are talking about the lungs, the structural functional unit of the lungs. So I understand that this pulmonary artery is breaking up into a large number of capillaries as it moves towards the lungs. And what is happening between every single alveolus and the lungs? Let us now understand again. This is the alveolus. And what about this blood vessel? Okay, this is a deoxygenated blood. So this deoxygenated blood, what will happen? The oxygen from the lungs will move this way. The oxygen from the blood will move this way. So these are the blood vessels running towards the lungs. So as and when it is leaving the lungs, can I say that this particular vessel which is leaving the lungs is the blood becoming more and more of oxygen rich? Yes, the blood is becoming oxygen rich. So now which is this vessel am I talking about? This vessel is the pulmonary vein. What is this particular vessel? This vessel is the pulmonary vein. I again tell you the relation. See, suppose we started from here. The right ventricle was containing what type of blood? Deoxygenated. When the right ventricle contracts, where does the blood go?
To the lungs.
Directly. Pulmonary artery first. From the pulmonary artery, where is this organ now? Where is the blood going? Lungs. In the lungs, what is the process happening? Exchange of gases happening. And now, the vessel which is coming away from the lungs is this particular vessel, the pulmonary vein. Why is it drawn in red to designate, to just distinguish that the blood now is rich in oxygen. The blood was rich in carbon dioxide, now the blood is rich in oxygen. We had already studied the right side of the heart. The right side of the heart was all dealing with deoxygenated blood. Now we start with the left side. The left side of the heart, to start with, talk about the pulmonary vein first. The pulmonary vein is receiving blood from the lungs. The blood is oxygenated. Where does the blood enter? The blood is entering into this particular chamber, just the parallel chamber, just the adjacent chamber here. Which is this chamber? We are talking about the left auricle. This chamber, the left auricle. Left auricle receives blood from which part of the body? Which part of the body? Lungs. Left auricle receives blood from which part of the body? Lungs, only the lungs. Right auricle receives blood from
all the organs.
whole body, all the body parts. Right auricle will receive the blood from all the body parts. Left auricle will receive blood only from the lungs. Is this clear now? The difference is? Now the same thing like this. The blood is filling up here. Another set of valves here. Another set of valves are there between the left and the left auricle and the left ventricle also. So this set of valves between, see here, left auricle and left ventricle, another set of valves are there. Now that this chamber is filling blood, this pair of valves has to open, blood will run down. Now what are these set of valves now known as? When I talk about the left auricle and the left ventricle, I now say that by the way of the pulmonary veins, now the blood will enter into the left auricle or the left atrium. From the left atrium to the left ventricle. From the left atrium to the left ventricle, now the blood has to go. From the left auricle to the left ventricle. What is the name of the valve in between? The name of the valve in between is bicuspid valve. What is it? Bicuspid valve. So we are talking about the bicuspid valve here. Between the left auricle and the left ventricle, which valve? Bicuspid. Clear? From the bicuspid, by the way of the bicuspid, now the blood runs down here into the left ventricle. What is the type of the blood in the left ventricle? Oxygenated. Now that the blood is in the left ventricle, as the left ventricle contracts, the blood will enter into this vessel. The biggest artery of the body, and this biggest artery of the body is known as the aorta. So we complete this. From the left ventricle, where will the blood go now? From the left ventricle, the blood will go into the largest artery of the body, the aorta. Then from the aorta, where should the blood go now and finish up the circle? From the aorta, divide two arteries and supply blood to the body parts again. Clear? So this aorta will carry oxygenated blood, divide into a large number of arteries and supply blood to all parts of the body. So what did we study is that if you look into the four-chambered hearts, the right side of the heart is absolutely separated from the right side. The right side is dealing with deoxygenated blood, give away the blood to the lungs, get the blood back from the lungs by the way of these pulmonary veins, and again into the left auricle, left ventricle, to the aorta and back to the body parts. From the body parts, which vessel will bring the blood back to the right auricle?
The
Big veins
vena
of the
cava.
body. The vena cava, the big veins of this body. Is this part clear? First of all, see that if this is clear, then we will go forward with the flow chart and the diagram also. Now that you know the parts, drawing the diagram will be a bit easier for you. You are aware which part you are drawing. Is this part understood? Let us now look into this to understand the same thing. See here. What did we study so far? The circulation of the blood. We were talking about the circulation of the blood. Again, I start with the body parts. And now, after you see this, you will be able to write down the flow chart also. Now, we talk about the body parts. The body parts will give away. I am starting from this side. The body parts will give away what type of blood? Oxygenated or deoxygenated? Deoxygenated. A large number of veins will unite and result in the formation of the big veins of the body. Big vein from the lower body, big vein from the upper body also will come and drop the blood where? Right auricle. Name the chamber of the heart which receives blood from the body parts. Right auricle always. What type of blood does it receive? Deoxygenated always. Now the blood from the right auricle will move down to which chamber? Right ventricle. What is the valve present between the right auricle and right ventricle? Tricuspid. Tricuspid. Now when the right ventricle contracts, now the right ventricle contracts. What is the contraction of the heart wall known as? Contraction of the heart wall is known as systole. Contraction of the heart wall is known as systole. You will be studying a concept of blood pressure at the end of that topic. So here itself I introduce what is meant by contraction and relaxation. Every time one chamber is contracting, the other is relaxing. So I started this way that the deoxygenated blood come here and entered into the right auricle. The right auricle contracts, blood goes where? Right ventricle. Valve is which one? Tricuspid. From the right ventricle, where will the blood go? Pulmonary artery. Carry the diagram again. When we are talking about this diagram, I already showed you pulmonary artery. To remember this diagram again, the pulmonary artery. Okay, now go back with this diagram. We try understanding this type of a flow chart also. From here, now the pulmonary artery, and this pulmonary artery will carry the blood way to the lungs. What is this process happening in the lungs? Exchange of gases. And after exchange of gases, what is happening to the blood? Blood is becoming oxygenated. Now that the blood is becoming oxygenated, which is this vein carrying the blood and dropping it into the left auricle? Pulmonary vein. Which chamber will receive blood from the lungs? Left auricle. Which vessel? Left auricle. Which chamber receives blood from the lungs? Left auricle always. Which vessel will carry the blood from the lungs to the heart? Pulmonary veins. There, what happened? He got exhausted. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Sit straight. मम्मा ने कुछ ज्यादा ही खाना दे दिया। हाँ? खाया नहीं, भूख लगी है। अभी सीधा बैठो। Now, when we are talking about this left auricle, which is that valve between the left auricle and the left ventricle? Bicuspid. When the left ventricle contracts, where will the blood go?
Right. Left.
When the left ventricle contracts, where will the blood go?
Aorta.
When the left ventricle contracts, where will the blood go?
Aorta.
Left ventricle contracts, blood goes to the aorta. ठीक है? Confusing है? And clear है? And from the aorta, where will the blood go now?
Body.
To the body parts. Okay? Now we will write down the entire flow chart, which you get as questions. Different concepts are asked. I will give you breakups. You will have to fill in. Chalo, we'll fatapat complete this and then we'll start with the diagram. Come fast. Take out your pencils. Write down the flow chart in one page. Better write horizontally so that you fit in. Write horizontally so that you fit in. Very fast. We'll complete with the flow chart. Then we will start with the diagram. Now that you know the paths, drawing the diagram also becomes much easier for you. Come on, start. What happened? मैंने बोला horizontally करो तो the entire thing fits in properly. और what do you feel? Vertically हो पाएगा? हाँ तो करो ऐसे भी करो ना. It's okay. The entire page you need. Entire page. You will need the entire page. Wherever, however you there.
मैम वो कितना बड़ा है? बस एक ही पॉइंट है ना.
काफी एक ही पॉइंट है।
उसके बाद
हाँ, it's a big thing. दो चार हाँ, ठीक है।
मैम दो मिनट में राइट
Pencil, pen, you can write anything. Now, we talk about switch off fan. No, not at all. Vein from the upper and the lower body. Then what should I write here? Tell me. What should I write here? The blood from the upper and lower part of the body will enter where? Right atrium. Also, you can write auricle. Same thing.
right ventricle.
What is the valve by right? From right ventricle, where does it go? Pulmonary artery. From artery, where does it go? In the lungs, what is that process going on? Exchange of gases come across. इसे oxygenation भी कहते हैं. When you get questions, no confusion. Exchange of gases, oxygenation is the same thing. From the lungs, the blood will be carried by pulmonary vein. From the pulmonary vein will drop the blood where?
Left ventricle to left ventricle.
From the left atrium vein,
Left ventricle.
which is this valve here? Clear है? From the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, it will go to the aorta. What is so special about the aorta, right? One special feature of the aorta, it is the largest artery of the body. This artery will divide, aorta will divide into a large number of arteries, and this will supply blood to the body parts again. Story अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ, एक और twist बाकी है यहाँ पे. Now, when we talk about the pulmonary artery, now see here. Right ventricle and pulmonary artery. Can you see this pair of valves?
Yes.
These are known as semilunar valves. Life इतना easy थोड़ी हो सकता था. खत्म है story. हाँ, इसको बोलेंगे since it is at the base of the pulmonary artery and these are semilunar valves. इसको बोलते हैं pulmonary semilunar. Semilunar valves is what is mentioned in your syllabus, but differentiate अगर याद रहे, this is pulmonary, base of pulmonary artery में जो valve है pulmonary semilunar, तो aorta के base में क्या होगा? Aortic semilunar. Semilunar valves है. So I will write, अगर नाम याद रहता है very good, otherwise semilunar लिखोगे तो भी चलेगा. Right ventricle और pulmonary artery के बीच में the valve is pulmonary semilunar valve. Pulmonary semilunar valve. Semilunar. L-U-N-A-R. Lunar. Semilunar. क्या हो गया? And where one more between the left ventricle and the aorta? Aortic semilunar. हो गया? Aortic semilunar valve. Now this is A process that we had studied. इस process को क्या बोलते हैं? This process of circulation of blood is known as double circulation. Why is it known as double circulation? Because the blood is entering the heart twice. From the body entering the right side, going to the lungs entering the left side. That's it. And then going up. So any volume of blood, any small amount of blood, if we check the course of circulation, from the body parts enter the right side, go to the lungs and enter the left side again. So every small amount of the blood enters the heart twice to complete a course of circulation. This is why it is known as double circulation. Double circulation is a feature of mammalian heart, four-chambered heart. All of you will complete with this. Any doubt you have here, we will clarify. Then we will draw the diagram. Make it fast.
Oh, just semilunar name.
Semilunar valves means when we talk about the nature of the valves, structurally these valves are a little bit different, more complex. Bicuspid, tricuspid, 3 pockets, 2 pockets. These are little bit different, complex in their structure. So that's the word semilunar. But now that they are at the base of the pulmonary artery, pulmonary, and the base of the aorta, aortic. Understand this flow chart and write. So the concept of double circulation, you are aware what happens in the concept of double circulation. What are the other animals which will show this method of circulation? All mammals. All mammals. What are the other organisms which has got four-chambered hearts? Birds also. Birds also has got four-chambered heart, and of course all mammals has got four-chambered heart. The circulation of the blood is whale also. Whale is also a mammal. But now that we talk about, what about the other animals apart from the birds? If I talk about the reptiles, that's just basic concept. You'll get to see a small paragraph in your textbook. When we talk about the reptiles like the lizards and all, yes, tricuspid, C-U-S-P-I-D.
And bats and mammals.
Bats and mammals. So now, bats also the same process. So whenever we are talking about the reptiles, the lizards, the snakes, or I talk about the amphibians, the frogs and the toads, they have got three-chambered hearts. They have got two auricles and a common ventricle, no right and left ventricle. They have two auricles up, right and left, but the ventricle is a common ventricle. So what do you expect? Mixing of the blood should happen here?
Yes.
If it's a common ventricle, septum is not there for them. The right auricle, right ventricle, definitely they have. So when the blood coming down from here and going and then again coming, so does mixing of blood happen? Yes, it's a common ventricle. Mixing of blood very much must be happening. So the supply of oxygen much lesser. What about the fishes? You get a question on that.
No.
One auricle, one ventricle, two-chambered hearts. Fishes have got two-chambered hearts. That's the reason there is profuse mixing of the blood and supply of oxygen much lesser, much lesser. So every time the blood that goes to their tissues has got a large amount of carbon dioxide also, not the oxygenated blood going to the tissues like us. Done with this? All of you are done with this? Complete?
Platypus mammals.
What is it?
Platypus
Platypus mammals. Platypus, walrus, all mammals. Mammals. Anteater, walrus, all mammals. Those of you are done with the flow chart. I don't think we'll have to take a diagram next class as well. Finish off fast so that we can complete the diagram. Page 163. By the time finish this question, page 162, 163, page 152. Answer. Page 152. See the first question there. Yes, MCQ. The first question. The first and the second. Both you answer. The first, second, and the third.
Okay, ma'am.
The first, second, third, and the fifth. Page number 152. Start from there. Then MCQ 1, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. By the time all of you finish, those of you are not done with this, finish up fast. 1, 2, 3, 5. Number 4 is for excretion, that will take up later. Tired? So Madhurita is tired. Following? Anybody has a doubt here? The concept of double circulation, arteries, veins, capillaries today that we learned. The valves that we learned. Go through once. The next class, I'll again give you certain questions. I'll ask oral also from time to time. So go through. Little bit if you go through also 10-20 minutes, then also you will not forget the concepts absolutely. Which one? This one. Aorta. Aortic. TIC. It's still 10:45 or 10:40. 10:45. Done? No, all of you are done with this? Done? This is not done?
I'm having a doubt in second question.
Read out. What is the text?
The answer is wrong even that.
The answer at the back you are not supposed to check. क्या हो गया? अच्छा, let me see. What is that second question there? In living organisms during respiration, that one you are saying? In living organisms during respiration, which of the following products are not formed if oxygen is not available? These are not anaerobic. Not formed.
They are the only products not. It's not when there is an accident.
Not formed. That is carbon dioxide and
Water.
if oxygen is not available in living organisms.
Living organisms
Not available in this can be formed. Are not formed. Carbon dioxide and alcohol can be formed. It is C. C there, check. Answer is C. C. Not Wait, check the combinations. Not formed. Lactic acid and alcohol together cannot be formed. Combination you have to check. Lactic acid and alcohol एक साथ में कभी भी form नहीं हो सकता. Two different organisms, two different times. तो carbon dioxide and water तो हो ही सकता है. Carbon dioxide and alcohol भी हो सकता है. Carbon dioxide and lactic acid also. Though carbon dioxide and lactic acid also not much, but along with lactic acid, small amount of carbon dioxide, but not a primary amount. So lactic acid and alcohol definitely. Lactic acid and alcohol एक साथ में कभी भी नहीं हो सकता. What is the answer given there?
A.
The answer is given A. Carbon dioxide and water तो हो ही सकता है. Are not formed. Are not formed. A answer होगा ही नहीं because carbon dioxide and water तो हो ही सकता है. So without oxygen, no, anaerobic you are saying, no? Without oxygen means anaerobic process you have to think. If oxygen is not available. If oxygen is okay, oxygen is not there. That means anaerobic. Correct. I'm sorry. If oxygen is not there, then B will be the correct answer. B. Carbon dioxide and water, oxygen is necessary, no?
Yes.
Okay, that is fine. Lactic acid and alcohol.
Oxygen is not necessary.
Oxygen, this oxygen also, but let us see the no, carbon dioxide is oxygen is necessary. Carbon dioxide again, C is the correct option, no? Carbon dioxide, oxygen is not available.
Oxygen is not available. Water can't be formed. Right?
Oxygen is not available. Then, if oxygen is not available, alcohol can be formed. Lactic acid can be formed.
Yes, ma'am.
So
they
C
can
is
be
cannot
formed.
be formed.
Cannot
What
be
is the
formed.
confusion?
The question is what cannot be formed. Those two can be formed, right?
Come down.
So correct.
If living
I'm sorry, but I am
organisms
C
during respiration, which of the following products are not formed?
Yes, ma'am.
If oxygen is not available. Okay, that means oxygen is not available. Anaerobic में क्या form नहीं होता है? That is the answer. Anaerobic में क्या form नहीं होता है?
वाटर नहीं आएगा मैम. ऑक्सीजन के बिना पानी कैसे हाँ तो ए है मैं सही
Wait. This is anaerobic. Anaerobic में carbon dioxide to form होता है. Water also is formed.
water is formed.
Anaerobic gives rise to water. Anaerobic gives rise to carbon dioxide.
How?
Anaerobic gives rise to carbon
No,
dioxide.
carbon gives rise to water.
Anaerobic gives rise to water. Ethanol के साथ water is there. Ethanol के साथ water is always there. They are saying anaerobic में जो नहीं बनता है. Anaerobic में
In the meantime, I studied the rest of the question. Hopefully that
options all are
Hey, best of the any of the above. Any of the above.
I will check with this question if it is right. Let's see which year it has come, because carbon dioxide and water also cannot be the right option, because they are saying not formed, but carbon dioxide and water both are formed in anaerobic. Both are formed in anaerobic. Now lactic acid and alcohol that are the same together.
Let us blame the
I will go. Maybe there's a big equation solve करते How can you say A? Because they are saying anaerobic absence of oxygen में जो नहीं बनता है. The absence of oxygen में तो जो नहीं बनता है कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड तो बनता है. कैसे नहीं बनता? ऑक्सीजन नहीं है तो कैसे? इथेनॉल along with ethanol water is always released. इथेनॉल के साथ तो वाटर रिलीज होता ही है ना. So you cannot say the first option is correct. या फिर या तो कोई प्रिंटिंग एरर होगा या कुछ भी मिस्टेक होगा. I'll get back to this. मुझे कंफ्यूजन नहीं, delete नहीं. We have to find out what is the error, or if not the error, what is the concept about this question. अच्छा, it's a board question, but they have typed it here, no? So while typing, so mistake हो ही सकता है. Okay, now board exam में ज़्यादातर इस तरह के errors नहीं रहेंगे. Okay, now go ahead with this and start with the diagram also. We'll take the diagram next class. Along with the diagram, I'll give you 5 questions to complete. So go through what we have finished today, and volume के बाकी जो 2 question complete नहीं हुए, take them as homework. What are the 2 diagrams I had asked you to complete? Complete the 2 diagrams. Okay, we'll stop here. मैं से डर लग रहा था कि मैम डांटना, तो मैं बस मुंह धुप रही हूँ.
एक चिकन है कि वेज है? तीन मिनट पर फ्रेंच फ्राइज है.
इलैबोरेटिव फिल्स कैसे लाता है?
ऑर्डर करके
शिफ्ट होना है वहाँ पे.
इधर बोलना. हाँ हाँ
नहीं है, नहीं है.